Hi, we are the Confident Communicator, and I am Seema Mehta, along with my partner Deepma Jadeja. Welcome to Imperfect Parenting. Together, let's get on a journey of discovering kindness, success, and happiness courageously, fearlessly, and by holding ourselves to a standard of grace, not perfection. It is our mission at the Confident Communicator to empower kids and adults discover their own uniqueness through our coaching, training, and soft skills program. We welcome you to a new chapter of Imperfect Parenting, a series dedicated to discovering our own uniqueness without judgment by chiseling away all superfluous materials within ourselves.
The first 10-15 minutes is just, how are you doing?
Yes.
What changes have happened at school? Are you going into hybrid yet? Or have you found ways that you can connect with your friends? Are there ways that you're able to continue with the other extracurriculars? You guys might remember that when I first started with your kids, and I talked about the importance of having your own personal goals and working towards the things that are important to you. I mean, high school, let's face it, is pretty prescribed. They're going to tell you exactly what you need to do and exactly what you need to learn. And they keep you pretty on target with regular assessments and assignments and homework and everything else. And so one of the things that I talk to students about is that we have to find time or carve out time in our life to do the things that are important to us. I get them to focus initially on, first of all, I try to, get rid of the myths that there are certain activities that are preferred in admissions, and
Yes.
community service is always
I
on the
remember
top
that
of
discussion.
that list.
Volunteering for hours. Yes. And I love what you talked about, those other skills, those life skills that are very relevant for children besides just the academics, and especially when you're working with parents in the Indian environment where academics is the top priority and focus, as you are aware. How do you shift that focus, and how do you get those other skill sets into the equation?
So the three most common mistakes that I see students making once they realize that the non-academic or extracurricular part of their application is important is, one, I say, kids think that there are certain activities that are preferred. So they seek out those kinds of activities. And what I always tell them is, if you're doing things that you think look good to admissions, guess what? That's kind of exactly how it ends up looking on your application, that you just did it because you thought it looked good. The second big error is kind of the jack of all trades student, right? Where they do a little bit of everything, maybe not knowing what admissions want to see. They just try to, tap into a little bit of all activities. And the problem with that is that admissions people are going to be reading hundreds or thousands of applications. And I think as humans, we know we like to categorize, right? We like to, read through something and summarize it. So if you're seeing an applicant where they're kind of all over the place, then your summary is going to look like, I don't know, she's a joiner, bring a clipboard, this girl will sign up for anything, but they don't really know what you're actually passionate about. And the third mistake that I see a lot of students making is the cure cancer mistake, like they have to do something really big in high school.
I also loved, Prab, when you talked about, you've changed the way you speak to the students, because that making yourself vulnerable, we've noticed that, Seema and I too, with our students, is that the minute you say, I don't know, you automatically get the ears of the children pricked up. And then whatever you say is far more acceptable and far, they're more willing to kind of listen. to what you're saying. We've done the goal setting, and I love your 3 questions that you ask them, and then you push them into just a month, because that's what we say. Get this big goal and then break it down into tiny little micro goals, doable little pieces.
Right.
What can you do in 4 weeks? Like you said,
what I've really tried to do, and I don't do this much with the students I work with unless they approach it with me, but I do definitely talk to my own children about, I want you to know that this is a place of no judgment. Okay.
Yes.
I want to be the first person that you talk to when you're considering any of this. And then, I'm going to give you a very objective perspective, even though it's from my old mind, but I can tell you about when I was young and I was trying to navigate these things as well. But, and I know that you're going to get those same, you're going to get other advice and you're going to take other opinions from other sources, but I want you to have mine as well.
Right.
And so, that can be hard for us sometimes because we don't want them to make bad choices.
Yeah, it's very tough to make that switch also, and it's very tough to stand back. It's also very tough, especially in India. These kind of conversations are very rarely, we very rarely make these conversations, and it's very culturally a difficult thing for us to do.
Yeah.
But I absolutely understand why it is important for, as parents, we have to start making that switch between that 9 to 12th, from somebody who is just constantly giving you instructions to somebody who becomes a collaborator. And I talk to my kids about this all the time, where I say, you are the driver of this car now. I'm not the driver anymore. You were the passenger earlier, but now you're the driver. And if you want to achieve anything in your life, you will have to be the one who navigates. And I'm the one who's going to be, right behind in case there is any issues or any problems. So that
we want them to continue. We want them to continue to think of us as a GPS, though, So if you feel like you're lost anywhere, please do check in. And I think it's also something where, we probably do this a little more actively with our daughters in terms of talking to them about being careful and not putting themselves into situations. I made it very much a point to talk to my son because now, I feel for young men, they have to be very careful about not putting themselves in a situation where they can be blamed for doing something that maybe they didn't know that they were doing, right? So, those are the kind of conversations that I think, sometimes we neglect to talk to our sons about this, but it's very, very important because, again, college is going to present different environments than they've had in high school.
So one question, a very $1 million question that a lot of parents have asked us is that everybody says you should know what you're doing. You need to know which direction you want to go. But
I got a great answer for this one.
At 15, 16, 17, and I have seen people at the age of 30 and 40 who don't know what they want to do.
Yeah.
So we changed our careers at the age of 40. So,
true.
how do we talk to our children about, their interests rather than...
It's so important.
So to distinguish it, be very, very cognitive of the fact that you should know who you want to be rather than what you want to do. Could you talk a little bit about that? How do we have
well, the first thing, this is one where I get to really kind of get on the student side because I know that very few of us at our age are doing what we thought we wanted to do when we were 17 or 18. And very few of us are even doing what we did. Like, we're not doing careers related to our undergraduate majors. And yet it's so important for us that our kids know exactly what they're going to do. It's silly. And we lived in a much less flexible time, and we didn't have as many opportunities, and we're still not doing what we thought. Yeah, we didn't have the kind of choices they have. So one of the things I tell students is I say, if you're getting a lot of pressure from family or relatives or whatever about that, the next time your parents have a dinner party, again, COVID spoils, you go around and ask all your parents' friends what they thought they wanted to do when they were 18, or ask if they're doing what they were trained to do as undergrads. But then I also tell a student that it isn't, well, I'm not saying that you should be waiting for some, oracle from the universe to come down and tell you what you're good at in life. You have to take an active step yourself to explore. And a good place to start is to, recognize what you really enjoy, subject wise, but also just kind of like, I'll take my son as an example again. When he was in high school, and as is often the case for kids, it's always these macro level things, doctor, businessman,
Engineer,
medicine, engineer, right. Nobody's ever aspiring to be the, assistant director of, nursing, so, but, those are all valid jobs and things that people do. So, what I say is like, try to understand what you really enjoy. He, at that point, he said, I think law is something I want to get into, and then said, okay, great. Let's try to explore whether there are opportunities for you to get some exposure and see if that's something that you think you would like.
Right.
And, we got him an internship through family friend at a law firm, and he recognized definitely not that kind of law. It was too much sitting at a desk, and, it was more patent law and business law. But I think what he recognized there was that he definitely feels his strength is in communicating to people and working with people. And he was like, so that helped him understand that as I look at other potential career paths, I want something where I'm doing a lot more interacting, where I'm meeting a lot of different kinds of people. And so that started to help him navigate, the direction that he wanted to research it. So I think what I tell parents is it's far more important that your child is in a constant state of exploration, as opposed to landing on any one destination. That it's very, very unlikely that if they have a destination in mind, that they're going to actually go there. But if they're in that constant state of exploration, then they're constantly looking for those light bulbs to go off that, like, oh, that sounds really interesting. I want to explore that. And again, if the US is the destination for college, one of the most wonderful things about it is that they force that exploration on you in the first year, and they give you the flexibility to change your mind up until the beginning of the third year. And I would say, even with my very fixated Indian students who know exactly what they want to do, 2 out of 3 of them change their minds, and so, and that's just what tells me that it's not, it's actually harmful to force a 16, 17, 18-year-old student in one direct path at too early an age, because then they might end up doing what they're not happy doing.
One last question is, we're talking a lot about the 21st century and all the skills that are required, and everybody talks about, resilience and adaptability and upskilling, because, like you said earlier, we had very simple choices and we had to pick one of those choices, while today our kids are, gearing up for all kinds of combinations that you talked about in the last few minutes. So what advice would you give? What are the characteristics that are necessary and critical for children to focus on, and parents to help them, encourage them to build those characteristics for the 21st century?
That is the $64,000 question, because we're all kind of figuring that out too, right? I mean, what are the robots not going to take over in the next couple decades? I think some of the things that have really surprised me that my students have developed, and I always love staying in touch with them afterwards. I mean, they get super busy and have far better resources than Uncle Prab to connect with. But when they do, and I can talk to them, I would say that the things that are almost the best things they leave college with is writing abilities. Okay. And when I say writing, I mean just really being able to communicate their ideas in effective ways, to collate information from, previous known information, research, et cetera, but be able to use that and communicate that effectively in their own ideas. That is such a transferable skill and something that they're going to need in whatever job that they go into and will get.